Hi, this is Dave Herman with Salt Lake City Fire Department. This is a video on creating content and disseminating training to personnel in Target Solutions. Today's date is Wednesday, April 12th, 2017. So getting training to crews in Target is kind of a five-step process. The very first thing that you need to do is basically gather and determine what kind of stuff you want to present to crews, whether it be a PowerPoint presentation or a video or a series of documents. The second thing you can do, optionally, is to create a test to add to your content. Again, you create an activity, you add it to the appropriate specialty or credential, and then assign it to the workforce. Let's go ahead and go through these individually. So as I mentioned, the first step in the process is to go ahead and gather your content. Again, a PowerPoint, video, etc. And what you're going to do is you're going to upload those things to the file center over here on the left-hand side of the screen. When you get to the file center, you want to go ahead and choose the folder that is most appropriate for the credential that you are providing training for. So if you're doing ARF training, put it in the ARF folder. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and do it in Technology. And one of the things that I recommend is to create a new folder by pressing this button here every time you're doing new training. That way these individual folders won't be messy. You can actually have folders for each training topic that is presented. So there are two things that I want to present in my training. First of all, I want to go ahead and upload a document that people will read. So I'm going to go ahead and press this Upload File or Add Link button. And there are three options that are available here. The first option is basically to upload a file or a video. And this could be a PowerPoint, a Word document, a video that you already have on your computer, etc. Articulate and SCORM, don't worry about that. We're not using that stuff right now. You can also throw in a web address, and so basically this could be a web page that an individual has to go to read the content, or it could be a YouTube video. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and select the file. I'm just going to go ahead and grab a random PDF document, throw it inside of there, and this is what appears. You can go ahead and leave the title as it is, or create a new title. Give it a description. You can also include tags inside of here, which will make it a little bit easier to search for a few years from now when we have a ton of content inside of the system. You can make it so that this video can be shared with others outside of our organization. So for example, if you have a document or a video that you want to share with other fire service organizations, you can go ahead and click this button, and then you'll have a hyperlink that you can utilize or you can give to them to basically share this content. Also, if you want to go ahead and share your content with the larger community, you can go ahead and click this button. Community resources are basically a listing of stuff that has been uploaded by fire departments to share with all Target Solutions customers. And basically, if you upload it and click this button or click this box, when you go to community resources, your topic or your training will show up inside of here. And finally, we have a version, which I don't know that we ever need to use, and who it's accessible by, supervisors or all users. When you're done, simply hit the Update button, and it says File Details Saved Successfully. Now, I also want to include a YouTube video, so I'm going to come over here to Web Address, and I've got this firefighter job requirements video. I'm going to go ahead and just copy the entire web address up here at the top, go back into Target Solutions, paste it, add URL, and then it's good to go. From here I can go ahead and add a title, so I'm going to call this, as before, I can go ahead and include tags if I want to, share with the community, indicate who it's accessible by, and then if I want to I can also throw in a description, which is purely optional. I'm going to go ahead and hit Update, and now it's saying that the details saved successfully. When I go back into the File Center now, if I go back into Technology, here are my two documents, and I can go ahead and look at these if I want to, and I will show you how to share that stuff in just a second. So now that I have my content that I want to include, the next thing that I want to go ahead and do is create some test questions for this to make sure that the participants have understood the stuff that I was putting out to them. You'll come over to Administration at the top of the screen and come down here to Test Builder. There are two options here. There's Question Bank and then also Test Library. We're going to always want to start with a question bank. And the questions that are inside of here fall into two categories. There are those that are public and those that are private. So there are test questions that, like the training division doesn't want to get out to the general workforce. They can actually make those private. Also, I mean, for some of the test questions that we have can be fairly generic, and so you can actually recycle any of the public stuff and add them to your test. I'll show you that in just a sec. I recommend that when you're creating a new test that you basically come up with a new category for that. That way we don't have a great big mess, an organizational mess of test questions. So I'm going to create a new category called Dave's Questions. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and make it public, and then if I want to, I can put a description as well. I'm going to go ahead and hit the Save button. Once I have this ready to go, I can go ahead and hit the plus sign right here to go ahead and add a question. And then go ahead and put in the answer choices. Does this thing work? Yes or no? This can also be multiple choice, and can be as complex as you want. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and indicate the correct answer is yes. And I'll go ahead and add a second question real quick. Again, I'm just going to make this a simple yes or no. Correct answer is yes, and I'm going to hit save. So once I have my questions done, then I can go ahead and go over to the test library and actually create the test. So in this case, I'm going to create a new one, and I'm going to give this one, I'm going to say this is going to be, indicate the test name, indicate what the passing grade is. In this case, they have to get 100%. I'm going to go ahead and randomize the order of the questions, make this public access, and basically to add questions, all I have to do is find the question that I want, hit the arrow here, and then the questions will actually show up inside of here. If I want to go ahead and pull in questions from other areas, what I can go ahead and do is come over to another category and just start adding this stuff as well. So I'm going to go ahead and save this, and now I've got a test ready to go for my training. So the next step in the process is to create an activity. You'll do that again under Administration, and you'll come over here to Activities Builder. So an activity inside of the system is can be a variety of different things. It can be a survey, it can be, watch this movie, then, read this. It can be a whole bunch of different stuff. The first step in the process is to come up here to the upper right-hand corner of the screen and create a new activity. You'll first of all want to select a category, and here are the ones that are included out of the box. We can also go ahead and create custom categories if we want to. And if you're doing this for a specialty certification, I recommend license certification. So if this is for ARF, Heavy Rescue, Hazmat, etc., go ahead and do that. You'll go ahead and give it a name, a description if you want to. And then there are three options down here below. Allow self-assign will basically make it so that firefighters can go ahead and look up this training in their credential and go ahead and complete it. Allow assigning through save and assign allows learning managers a little more flexibility in terms of how they disseminate the training to individuals. The one that's mandatory, in my opinion, for options is allow recording as complete for administrator or supervisors. This will ensure that a station captain can actually go in and give training on behalf of others. Privacy is going to be default in this case, and if you want to, you can go ahead and add tags to the training. Again, that's for search functionality, which, at this point in time, we're so new to the system that tags probably aren't that necessary. Also on certificate, attach a custom certificate of completion. We're not using that right now. The certificates in Target Solutions don't allow the duration or number of hours to be passed, and so we see very little value in certificates at this point in time. So now I've got a blank activity, and what I'm going to go ahead and do is basically click and drag what I want the activity to contain from the stuff over here on the right-hand side of the screen. So for example, if I want to go ahead and add the date that it was complete, I'm going to go ahead and do that here. And down here, there are some options available to us. So basically, you can allow user input, or you can go ahead and include input by default. that basically will just automatically pass through the activity or be a part of the activity that the user cannot manipulate. So this would be like, for example, duration. If the training is going to be 2 hours universally, then what you would use is only allow the input of 2 hours, and I'll show you that in just one sec. User response is required. I highly recommend that. And response required and save and assign, I would typically leave that blank. So I'm going to go ahead and hit submit at this point in time. The one thing that is always required for any sort of activity is the duration. So basically, in this case I said total hours of training. And what you can do is, if this is an activity that could be, a half hour or 4 hours, then what you can do is basically just say, okay, the user gets to input the duration of the training. And in this case, the minimum accepted value is 30 minutes, and the maximum accepted value is 4 for 4 hours. I'm going to make user response required. Basically, if like in this case, it's watching a 15-minute video and reading, a 15-minute document, I'm going to go ahead and set this as 30 for 30 minutes. That makes it so that they will automatically be credited 30 minutes, and they have no option of changing that. And if you want to, under the circumstance, you could actually hide that information from the user, but I'm going to go ahead and accept it. Let me get this out of here real quick. All right, so I've got the date complete, I've got the duration. Now I need to go ahead and add my content. And where you're going to go ahead and do that is down here in the freeform components, down here where it has resource. When I hit the plus sign, what it does is it brings up the file manager that I showed you previously. You'll look in the folder where that stuff exists. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and do technology. And the first thing I want them to do is read this document. In this case, it's going to go ahead and require an e-signature. And here's the text for the agreement. I have read and agreed to the document above, and I simply hit submit. And I'm going to go ahead and do that one more time for the firefighter training video. All right, and then I've got it. I have the date complete that they'll have to fill out. It'll automatically credit for 30 minutes. They'll have to read this document, and then they will have to watch this video. And if you want to, you can change the order around by using these arrows up here and just moving that wherever you want to. So for example, in this case, it might actually flow a little better if I have them watch the training video first, then watch the read the document, and then complete the rest of the information. Now, in addition to the 4 things that I've shown here on this particular activity, there's a bunch of other stuff as well. For example, training type, the method of instruction, the instructor, agency, etc. The process is identical. You'll simply go ahead and add these to your activity and then go ahead and configure them as appropriate depending on what it is you want. So the next step in the process, once the activity has been built, is to go ahead and add it to the appropriate credentials. Credential management, or the ability to add training to credentials, is limited to system administrators. So this is going to be the chief and the captain and Gina out at training. Essentially, it's basically the division heads and the division captains who have this capability, and that's done intentionally so that basically training that is inappropriate, it doesn't get added to categories kind of randomly. So it's kind of a review process. If you do have access to this, then what you're going to do is go into administration. You're going into manage credentials, and you'll basically make a determination as to what credential or credentials this particular activity applies to. So if I come down to specialty, I can say, okay, this pertains to the ARF credential. What this will do when I add it to this credential is it will make it so that every time they complete this, it will fulfill bucket hours for whatever category I choose. So in this case, let's say that this pertains to aircraft evacuation. All I have to do is hit this plus sign right here, then search for the activity, hit add, and now that activity is located inside of here. One thing that we have noticed as well, and this is something to watch out for, is when you add an activity to a credential, pay attention to this number right here. every once in a while what we notice is that the activity may actually be for 2 hours, but the number here is different. To change that, simply click on the activity and you can go ahead and update it here. So once it's been added to the credential, the final step in the process is to disseminate it to users. Training is assigned through administration and assignments right here. What you're going to go ahead and do is create a new assignment. And we just created the activity, so I'm going to go ahead and search for it. Here comes Dave's training activity. I'm going to go ahead and continue on. From here, I'm going to go ahead and assign it to individuals. I can either do this individually, such as my test personnel. I can also come over here on the left-hand side of the screen and filter. So for example, if I wanted to give an assignment to just engineers, I could go ahead and just select engineer and bring up just those folks. Or if I wanted to give training to just Battalion 1 staff members, for example, I could filter in that way and then select all visible if I'm so inclined. In this case, I am actually going to clear all and just go test so we don't send bogus training out to people. And continue on. Once you're here, basically you have some options. You can email the users when the assignments are available. You can email them when the assignments are overdue. You'll go ahead and indicate your start and your due dates. In this case, I'm going to give them 2 weeks to go ahead and get this puppy completed. And if you want to, you can go ahead and view the users and edit users. So this would be good, if you want to go ahead and, put together a group of people with a particular specialty or from a particular region of the department, but you want to exclude, a couple of individuals for whatever reason. In this case, I'm simply going to hit submit and saying, hey, you've chosen to notify these users. I'm going to go ahead and continue, and it's been done. So what's happened is those 2 users have now received an email indicating that they have a new activity, a new training assignment, and it will actually show up in the schedule here as well. So it'll be one of the first things they see when they log into the system, and then they can go ahead and just knock it out at that point in time. Let me go ahead and log in as a user real quick, and we can see what that looks like. So I've just logged in as a test user, one of the couple of individuals I sent my training activity to. It looks like it's showing up right here because I've got some assignments that are a little overdue. But I go ahead and pull this up. Basically, I'm going to go ahead and start by watching the video on YouTube. I'm going to go ahead and check the box affirming that I've done it. I'm going to go ahead and look at the PDF document, read through it. Again, affirm that I have done it. Indicate the date complete and the time complete. And then it indicates that I have received 30 minutes of training for completing this. Now, if you're a learning manager, one of the things you probably notice is this button over here as well, Save and Add Users. So if you happen to do this as a shift or as a group, you can go ahead and press this button and add users, and they will likewise receive 30 minutes of training for this particular activity. In this case, I'm just going to go ahead and submit it as complete and go ahead and move on. So the last thing I want to show you is basically how to gauge your success with the course you just disseminated to folks. You may want to determine, how many people have actually completed that, and the way you'll do that most easily is through reporting. So I'm going to go to Administration and come over here to Generate Reports. I'm going to create a new report, and the type that I want to go ahead and do is this thing called completions. As I mentioned in our initial training, you can go ahead and schedule this report to run on a regular basis, or you can share it with folks. Or if you save it, you can just run it over and over again manually, and it would automatically update depending on the criteria you put in. In this case, I want to track it by station and assign platoon to kind of get a sense of, how well that's being completed by those 2 columns. And then down here, actually there are 2 things. First of all, I want to go ahead and say that the completion date range is all time. And I'm going to go ahead and select my activity by going to Courses and Activities and select Assignments. In this case, I'm going to search for my training, hit the Save button, hit Run, and the report will queue. As I mentioned in our initial training, sometimes reports can take a little bit of time to generate. Typically it's no more than about 30 seconds or so, but it just kind of depends apparently on the other reports that have been requested by other Target Solutions customers. This actually didn't take too long, so I'm going to go ahead and select that. And here's an indication of the individuals who have completed this training and the dates of completion. And of course from here I can go ahead and download this if I want to, or email it to somebody else to share it. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. If you have any questions regarding this or anything else dealing with target solutions, feel free to give me a call. I'm at 801-799-3510. Thanks.